Hello, everybody. What's going on? What's happening? This your girl Tiffany here, live in effect. So today I'm gonna get straight to it. First and foremost, I want to say Happy Kwanzaa. Happy Kwanzaa to all the beautiful people out there. And today's Kwanzaa is Ujama. So yesterday was Ujima, right? Today is Ujama. Ujama is cooperative economics. So it's very funny that today is dealing with cooperative economics because we have to have a conversation about black businesses, the concept of black excellence, and black exceptionalism, right? So before I get started, make sure you guys like the channel, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and all that great stuff. And I'm ready to proceed. All right, so I think what really got me on this topic because I've been pondering about this whole idea about black exceptionalism, black excellence, because we like to say when we hear about black business owners out there, right, we want to always say black excellence. But exactly what does black excellence really look like? And what is the pros and cons to that? Okay. And what is black exceptionalism? What does that look like? All right. And then we have to get into the historical context about black owned businesses as well. All right, so what really inspired me was there's a sister who goes by the name Alicia Renice the artist. So she did a video called Black Excellence is a Scam, Respectability, Politics, Classism, and Hustle Culture in Black Culture. And I thought that it was very interesting. As a matter of fact, I can show you her channel. You guys are interested in looking at it. So this is her channel right here. Okay. That's the sister's channel. And I thought it was very interesting that she spoke on this subject matter. Now, there was a lot of points that she had touched on regarding to the concept about black excellence. And there were some things that I had a slight disagreement to. But I thought that it was very important that we all just kind of sit back and think about this. And then I want to share something with from the book that was written by E. Franklin Frazier. So E. Franklin Frazier was a sociologist, an African American sociologist, and he studied a lot into middle class and not only black middle class family, but also the black bourgeoisie. Okay, he spoke on that, and this was around 1950s, but it still has some relevancy to today. Now, what I want to do is I want to get into the whole concept about black. Well, let's talk about black owned businesses first. Okay. And why is that so important for us? Because we do need black owned businesses. We do need something that we can have for ourselves as a community. All right. So if you guys want to take a look at it, you can go on Wikipedia, right? And it goes into that concept about black owned businesses. So how many black people right did for themselves, because you have to look at the time period. We have to look at during the time of slavery, then you had the Jim Crow period, and then after the Jim Crow period. All right, so it motivated more and more black folks to really go out there and do for themselves. However, the situation the situation that became a problem was the whole thing about the 40 acres and the mules, where black people was promised to have these things available for the community, for themselves and their family, the generational wealth. But obviously, many of them did not see that. So, that became a very major issue. And to this day, a lot of us question, well, why are we entitled to that? Some people say we aren't entitled to it, and then there are those of us that say we are entitled to that. After all, if our ancestors worked so hard in this country, why could they not get something they could pass on down from generation to generation? All right, but let's go ahead and let's look into this information right here real fast. All right, so right here in this article, it talks about black-owned businesses, also known as African-American businesses, originated in the days of slavery before 1865. Emancipation and civil rights permitted businessmen to operate inside the American legal structure starting in the Reconstruction era and afterwards. By the 1890s, thousands of small business operations had opened in urban areas. The most rapid growth came into early 20th century as the increasingly rigid Jim Crow system of segregation moved urban blacks into a community large enough to support a business establishment. The National Negro Business League, which Booker T. Washington, college president, promoted, opened over 600 chapters. It reached every city with a significant black population. So it says African Americans have operated virtually every kind of company, but some of the most prominent black owned businesses have been insurance companies, banks, recording labels, funeral parlors, barbershops, beauty salons, restaurants, soul food restaurants, record stores, and bookstores. Then goes on to say by 1920, there were tens of thousands of black businesses, the great majority of them quite small. The largest were insurance companies. The league had grown so large that it supported numerous offshoots, serving bankers, publishers, lawyers, funeral directors, retailers, and insurance agents. So the Great Depression of 1929 and 1939 was a series of blows as cash income fell in the black community because of very high unemployment, and many smaller businesses closed down. During World War One or World War Two, many employees and owners switched over to high paying jobs in many was it munition factories. Black businessmen generally were more conservative elements of their community, but typically did support the civil rights movement. By the 1970s, federal programs to promote minority business activity provided new funding, although the opening world of mainstream management and large corporations attracted a great deal of talent. Black entrepreneurs, originally based in music and sports, diversified to build brands, names that made for success in the advertising and media worlds. All right, so it talks about different time periods. You can see it talks about before emancipation, right? If we go down here, it says entrepreneurship can be traced back to when Africans were first forcibly brought to North America in the 16th century. Many African Americans who gained their freedom from slavery opened their own businesses, and even some enslaved African Americans were able to operate businesses either as skilled tradespeople or as minor traders and peddlers. Enslaved African Americans operate businesses both with and without their owner's permission. All right. So as you can see down here, there was different, business owners. You got those who were tobacconists, shoemakers, sailmaker, barber, merchant, and dressmaker, right? Okay. So just to kind of like give you the few. All right, so going up here, it says free blacks facing a generally hostile environment occasionally operate small businesses. Profit-making businesses were created by more free and enslaved African Americans than one might realize from the usual slavery of antebellum America. So when the opportunity presented itself, it was taken by these men and women, sometimes timidly, sometimes wholeheartedly, and often endorsed by masters of the enslaved. All right. So it says businesses often involve out of skills or specialty the business owner or service provider already knew. Then it goes on to talk about the Reconstruction, right? Emancipation and civil rights permitted businessmen to operate inside the American legal structure starting in the Reconstruction era and afterwards. So by the 1890s, thousands of small business operations had opened in urban areas, right? So it says from the late 1880s, there was a remarkable development of Negro business, bank and insurance companies, undertakers, and retail stores. It occurred at a time when Negro barbers, tailors, and caterers, and tradesmen, blacksmiths, and other artisans were losing their white customers. Depending upon the Negro market, the promoters of the new enterprise naturally upheld the spirit of racial self-help and solidarity. All right. All right, so now we go down to the golden age period, right? Well, before we go down here, let's look at this real quick. It says black communities were undoubtedly negatively affected by the enforcement of racial segregation in cities and urban areas where blacks were limited in what residential area they could occupy. Whether in the South or the North, segregation limited the social, educational, and economic progress of the varying black community forced into this racist social practice. However, the new economic, anthropological, and census research conducted established how black communities in the North during the late 19th century fought against racial segregation by donning new attitudes towards commerce and entrepreneurship. So, racial segregation in the North during the 19th century saw a considerable rise in black entrepreneurship and black owned small businessmen or businesses within their respective communities. All right, so it said these small business owners were able to take advantage of constraints placed upon the African American community and exploit a market of untapped black consumers that at the time were not allowed a great deal of purchasing power in white economic markets. All right, then it goes on to talk about the golden age, right? From the 1900s to the 1930s. So it says the nadir of race relation was reached in the early 20th century. In the terms of political and legal rights, blacks were increasingly segregated. However, the more they were cut off from the larger white community, the more black entrepreneurs succeeded in establishing flourished businesses that catered to a black clientele. All right. So if you guys want to look into more about this, you can. You can do it on your own term. Okay, so now let's go down. Let's go down to talk about small business. Right, it says addition to more prominent business listed above, African American has strong tradition of owning and operating small business such as restaurants, drugstores, newsstands, corner stores, and candy shop, liquor stores, grocery bars, and gas stations. So African Americans also have a lengthy history of ownership in music-related business, including record stores, nightclubs, and record labels. African American bookstores were closely tied to radical political movements, including Black Power, Black nationalism, Pan-Africanism, and Marxism. African Americans owned funeral homes also served an important role during the civil rights movement. These spaces allowed for violence committed by white citizens to be made more public through photograph and television. All right, so it talks about the double duty dollars. So the double duty dollar term was used in the U.S. from the early 1900s through the early 1960s to express the notion that dollars spent with businesses hiring blacks simultaneously purchase a commodity and advance the race, where the concept applied retailers who excluded African Americans as employees effectively excluded them as patrons too. So, religious leaders and social activists such as Booker T. Washington and Marcus Garvey urged their communities to redirect their dollars from suppliers who excluded African Americans to suppliers with more inclusive practices. In the 1940s and 1950s, Leon Sullivan applied the broader phrase selective patronage to note customers' choice of suppliers as a tool. A, to influence suppliers towards fair and more just interaction with African Americans, and B, to build demands for African American supply. In retrospect, the movement had little impact. All right. So it goes on to talk about national agendas. It also deals with the national market. Okay. Then you go down to the 21st century, which is where we at today in current times. So down here it talks about the 21st century. In 2002, African American owned businesses accounted for 1.2 million of the United States 23 million businesses. As of 2011, African Americans owned businesses accounted for approximately 2 million U.S. businesses. So black owned businesses experienced the largest growth in number of businesses among minorities from 2002 to 2011. Okay. Now, it also says that internet enabled black owned businesses such as McBride Sisters Wine Company to become visible and reach a larger market than would have been possible pre internet. So it goes on to say the Dodd Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act of 2010 had as one goal to assist black owned businesses land more federal contracts. It required federal agencies to open an office of minority and women inclusion to track their diversity efforts in workforce hiring and procurement. All right, so additionally, African American businessmen became more visible, including billionaire BET founder Robert L. Johnson and private equity manager Robert F. Smith. All right, so and then it goes on to talk about the statistics. So it says in 2015, the U.S. Census report that there were 2.6 million Blacks or African Americans owned firms nationally in 2012, up from the 1.9 million or 34.5% from 2007. Many apps and online directories such as the Now List or Official Black Wall Street have emerged, offering a database for African American owned businesses that consumers can support. All right. And then once we see down here during the 21st century, there have been multiple mediums for African American owned business to gain public eye. Shark Tank has provided a medium for many Black-owned businesses to acquire investors, promote their business, and share their story with the world. One of the largest Black-owned company on Shark Tank was a company called U-Lace. U-Lace was a no-tie shoelace owned by Tim Taylor out of Rochester, New York. Mark Cuban acquired a 35% equity in the company for an investment of $200K. This investment increased revenue to over $3 million. Another successful company to come out of Shark Tank was a company called Simply Panache Products. This company made mango preserve and did not receive any investment from the sharks. This did not discourage or inhibit their future because they have now developed hotels, spa, and restaurants over the mango theme, showing that not only did they not need the help of investment, but proving their resilience and dedication to their business. And then, as we can see, it talks about the pandemic, right? So I'm going to read a little bit about that. Okay, it says the pandemic has been a factor in the Black owned business and how they are performing during this time period. A research study conducted by the Federal Reserve has found that Black owned businesses have been hit harder in the pandemic than any other business because of their geography, limited research to federal aid programs, and weaker ties to banks. They found that counties with high concentration of Black-owned businesses had a high amount of COVID-19 cases. Meanwhile, counties with higher share of white-owned businesses had a lower incidence of COVID-19 cases. All right, so I'm just going to stop here. Again, you guys can read it up for yourselves. You guys can check more into this. So let's talk real fast, right? And what I want to talk about is the whole Shark Tank. Now, I used to like watching that show, but I had to stop. And the reason why I stopped watching that show is because how Black people, when they got on there, right, especially they had a product that was of value or it was being marketed, they was getting a low blow deal for their products. So let's just say if they was offering a deal, say somebody came in and they had some type of clothing design, right? And they offered the deal for like 35%, right? Okay. So they want 35% and they want um they want the investment for, or let's just say they want the investment for 25% and they want like around 200K. But one of them Shark Tanks might say, well, okay, you can get 25% investment, but you're going to get it for 100K. Now, that's the part I did not like. So once I seen how certain individuals getting played on the show, I was like, nah, that show, I wouldn't even recommend anybody going on there because they're not going to really get the deal they offer, and they're going to get pretty much the lower cut of what they trying to get out the deal, and they're going to get taken advantage of. So I'm like, nah, that's not even a good show. I don't even know why the show's still around, but hey, at the same time, it's very educational. Okay, but I see that a lot of Black folks done got played being on that damn show, and I ain't like it. I done seen some things that was just very disagreeable to me. But anyways, so with that being said, Black businesses always been around and they always have exist. And yes, they are necessary. All right. However, but the problem is there's discrimination between or amongst certain Black owned businesses. Now, if certain Black owned businesses do not reach the higher level of the clientele, or if they don't get to that white collar type of position, right, then they get overlooked at. So we see that there's a lot of struggling business owners out there, those who are small business owners especially. They cannot really compete into the marketing, right? So they cannot really get to that level of success, okay? Because they don't have enough networking, um they don't have enough qualities or quantity or whatever the case may be. And that's the problem that we see. And then we see those who are so-called successful. Well, they didn't get to that level as far as working their way up to the top. They pretty much cheated their way up to the top. They pretty much were able to connect with those who can connect them with somebody. And some of them had to do certain things to get to that level, if you know what I mean. Certain things. We don't need to go there. We know what that is, right? All right. So we see that. Now let's look at some articles real fast, okay? I don't really have the time to go over this book real quick. So I'm gonna let you guys take your time out to check out this book on your own terms. So this book here is called The Black Bourgeoisie, the book that brought the shock of self-revelation to the middle class of blacks in America by E. Franklin Frazier. So you guys can read into that on your own term if you want to. All right, so let's go ahead and let's look at some articles. Because see, now we have to ask some questions as to what is black excellence. What does that look like? What does that mean? When we say black excellence, exactly what does that mean? Who is qualified to be black excellence? All right, so now right here, you can find this on dictionary.com. And according to dictionary.com, right, which was published on January 28th of 2022, it says, what does black excellence mean? The term black excellence refers to a high level of achievement, success, or ability demonstrated by an individual black person or by black people in general. The term is often used to highlight and celebrate specific example of such achievements and ability, especially as the hashtag black excellence. Okay, so in some cases, the term is used to refer to an aspiration or goal to be achieved or to a mindset used in the pursuit of such success. All right, so it says the term black excellence is sometimes used in discussion about the disproportionately high levels of work that black people must do and the ability they have to achieve the same success as white people as a result of the anti-black racism and oppression of white supremacy. Now, I'm going to leave that right there for a moment. I'm gonna leave that right there. I'm gonna highlight that because that's something to think about. There's some keywords there. So the keywords here: must do, right? The abilities achieve the same success as white people, as an anti-black racism and oppression of white people. So now what that sounds like is respectability of politics. Respectability of politics. If I can do exactly the same thing with these people who are privileged or my counterparts, then I can be able to get the same privilege and get the same recognition and same respect as them. Now that's something really to think about right there, right? But let's go on further down to the article. It says, relatedly, the concept is sometimes discussed in critical contexts that point out that people who are considered to exhibit black excellence often face unreasonably high expectations and standards, especially when they are held up as representative of the entire black race. In this way, anything less than excellent or profession may be viewed as failure, creating impossible standards. Such pressure is often discussed as being detrimental to mental health and overall well-being. Still, the term itself is typically used in a positive way in the context of the achievements of and success of black people. This is especially the case when it's used as a hashtag. Black excellence is often used in the same context in a similar ways as other positively focused terms like black joy and black girl magic. All right. Okay, so now here it is. It's nothing wrong with black excellence. However, black excellence does create a problem. Now, here's the pro to black excellence. You have individual who can find themselves being doing well and by building their own, by starting their own business, or by being able to get to a certain level in their lives and getting past their circumstances. So in a way, black excellence does bring that pro, but here's the con. It creates the dichotomy, it creates classism, because now there goes the black exceptionalism, and there goes the respectability of politics. Because now you have a certain group of black people who represent black excellence and everybody else don't represent so much. So that certain group of people is the so-called black elite, right? Or those that's in the middle class, right? Those who happen to be millionaires, they represent the black excellence, whereas everybody else don't really represent that category. And that's where the problem come in. That's where people start to clash, because it creates the concept of classism. So it's almost equivalent to say that, well, if you a black person that happen to be middle class, right? You almost like you pretty much black bougie. You might as well just be a white person in a black face, because it's the attitude that comes along with it. Like, okay, you're winning because you belong to that group of black folks, but that's not a win for all black people. That's not a measure for all black folks, because there are those of us that's still struggling, that's still working, trying to live paycheck to paycheck, trying to take care of our bills, trying to do whatever it takes for us to survive. If you black folks up here, y'all are already up there, so you guys are represented as black excellence, while the rest of us is not so much of black excellence. Now, do you see that division? So again, the question becomes, well, how is that a win for the black community altogether when only a certain group of black folks is being represented? How is that a win for the black community? Or is it really a win for the black community? Because now you create the narcissism. Now you got the egotism. Now you got these group of black folks who end up with that same mentality as their white counterparts, looking down on other black people. And we're going to get into a deep conversation, a deep conversation about how black people were able to get into the middle class community. Because see, people don't understand the origins behind that. See, while we sit up here, while those individuals sitting up here looking down and say, well, those black people over there in the hood ain't doing nothing, they ain't about nothing, they sorry as hell, they ain't trying to get themselves together. But wait a minute, hold on. It was those black people in the hood that opened up that opportunity for you to be able to move up and live in the suburbs. They put up the fights. They had to go through they had to go through the protests. They had to go through getting picked on. They had to go through the antagonism. They had to go through waiting in line to be qualified to move in certain areas. So those black people from the inner city was the ones that had to move up to that community, so that way you and your family would not go back to that situation. See, that's what people tend to forget. Again, that's going to be a deep conversation. That's a deep conversation in itself. That's a serious topic that needs to be focused on one day, because I think people forget how they got to this level or where they come from. You know what I'm saying? They get so big headed because of the fact that they wealthy, or they done got some type of degree, which I'm going to talk about. They done got some type of degree, and now all of a sudden they better than everybody else. And that's a problem. That's a serious problem. All right, peace to the chat. Shout out to everybody in the chat real quick. Shout out to Brother Santavo, Big Cree Money, Brother Bakari, I see you. Been a minute. Brother Dejan, D1, I see you. All right. Shout out to everybody in the chat. So now let's go in and let's look at the whole reason why black excellence is harming black people. Okay. Let's look at why black excellence is harming black people. All right. Let me say something. Okay. All right. So this here comes from Forbes.com. Ironically, ironically, Forbes.com. This is the same Forbes that took away Kanye West's status as a billionaire. That's what makes it so ironic. Because it was Forbes that said Kanye West was a billionaire. He was worth like 2.3 billion dollars or somewhere like that. I don't know exactly the amount, but now they done took him off the Forbes list and replaced him with P. Diddy, which is very ironic. That's very strange. But let's go ahead and see what they talk about on this article real fast and quick. Um it says our obsession with black excellence is harming black people. Okay, this is by Janice Gazam Asar. Right. It says in recent years, the rise of phrase and hashtag like Black Girl Magic and Black Excellence have gained popularity and prominence. A quick perusal of social media would lead users to millions of tag posts endorsing Black excellence. The promotion of Black exceptionalism is rampant. More conversation is needed around how these ideas are harmful to Black folks. A 2015 blog post perfectly articulates how Black exceptionalism can be conceptualized. It is the notion that Black people who are educated, smart, and articulate pose, and basically every other positive adjective you can think of are typical and rarities among the general Black population. Systemic barriers throughout history have made it more challenging for Black people to ascend and succeed. Under this notion, it is important to showcase those who have been able to advance despite the insurmountable odds created by global racism and anti-Blackness. Prominent of Black exceptionalism assert that representation matters and it is vital to showcase the symbolism of a Black president or other Black first highlights in the media are in an impactful way to show Black children what is possible, but how is our society obsession with Black exceptionalism actually harmful? All right, so check this out. It says Black exceptionalism is often used to justify Black humanity. A recent example occurred on July with England's national soccer team. After three Black players on the team missed their penalty kicks, there was a barrage of racist comments that flooded the internet. On social media, right? Some users comment that the online abuse that the players were experiencing were particularly rigorous because of the charitable acts that the players have engaged in. All right. So and then when it goes down to say we saw a similar narrative following the killing of 23-year-old Elijah McClain at the hands of Aurora, Colorado police following the murder of George Floyd. McClain's story gained greater visibility on social media, meaning demanded the arrest of officers involved. McClain was repeatedly described as a kind and gentle person who spent time at shelters caring for animals. The emphasis again was that a Black person who exhibits these positive traits does not deserve to be harmed. This narrative is problematic because it reinforces a notion that a Black person who has engaged in a wrongdoing or crime does not deserve humanity. It propagates the idea that Black people are only deserving of humanity if they are exceptional, charitable, do-gooders. Under this belief, a Black person who has made mistakes is irredeemable. All right, hmm. So let's look at that now. I can understand where the writer is coming from in that article because there is some problems. Because it's like if you don't represent professionalism as a Black person, then you are not qualified. Now, I believe that as humans, we all gonna make mistakes. There's no such thing as being perfect. We all make mistakes. We all do things, and we have to learn from those mistakes. So the author, in a way, is right because just because somebody have committed certain crimes, right, should not mean that they should be cut off and should be turned away because of what they have done in the past, right? Or they should be regarded as undesirable people. You know what I'm saying? Right? So, but we see that those who represent so-called professionalism or professionalists does not always represent what we think. Now, what happened to those victims from Elijah McClain to George Floyd should never happen, period, regardless of what their background was, right? You know what I'm saying? It should never happen. but we already know what the status is because of the systemic racism. So it don't matter if you was some black person that came from a middle class family, and or if you was a black person that came from a low class family, you will always be that target. All right. And the government would look for a way to try to take you down. Okay. They're going to find a reason to do so. Well, not the government, but the law enforcement. So it wouldn't matter. But there's the issue of black exceptionalism. They feel like, oh, you got to represent professionalism. You got to be a perfectionist. You got to be top notch and all of that to be represented as part of black excellence. And that's the problem. That's a major problem right there, because now you're showing somebody that they can become conceited about themselves, and they can look down on somebody else because of their mistakes. You know what I mean? So in a way, we're not helping each other. We're not bringing collectivism. See, we don't want to address the classism issue. We don't want to address how that affect us collectively as black folks. We really don't have no time to be talking about classism, right? As far as we don't have no time to be promoting classism is what I meant to say. We don't have no time for that. You know what I mean? Because if we represent the 13% of the population, which I believe the number is much higher than that, but let's just go along with the narrative. If we represent 13% of the population, we should not be focusing on classism. We should not be focusing on, oh, I'm a upper class person, I'm the middle class, and you the lower class. No, we gotta focus on what is affecting us collectively as a people. But again, we allow the idea of money. We allow this capitalist society to bring that type of separation to where we don't be able to help each other. And that's why I understood where Amiri Baraka came from, because he was from a middle class family, and I see why he disassociated himself from that, because he don't want to be a part of the bouginess. He wanted to be able to see the world for what it really was. He wanted to be able to see what was like to actually see black people struggle, and what can be done to help those African Americans, brothers and sisters that's struggling in the ghetto. You know what I'm saying? He came from middle class, but he separated himself from that. That's another reason. And then he also separated himself from going to uh Howard University, because Howard University wanted to be very prestigious. They want to pretend like they are white, you know what I'm saying, or carry themselves as white people. They want to be on that same level as white privilege, instead of focus on how to enhance the black race and how to be able to bring some type of economic structure for the community, on how to bring about group economics, and how black people can be able to advance so they can be able to better serve their people. It's more so about being on the status of white folks with Howard. So I understood exactly why Amiri Baraka was so radical in his poems and his revolutionary thought, because he wanted black folks to get out that mentality of you are middle class, or you the upper class, you the lower class. What you need to focus on is we're black in this country, and we going to experience a lot. We're going to deal with a lot of racism. Okay. All right. So let's see. Okay. So she goes on to talk about black essentialism plays into the idea of respectability of politics. That's if black people act the right way, they are deserving of decency and respect. Our obsession with black exceptionalism does not allow black people to just be. Black excellence does not allow black children to be children. Striving for big goals and aiming to improve one's performance in any domain is admirable. This is not a criticism of that. This is rather an interrogation of our society's obsession with black exceptionalism. Black exceptionalism encourages black people to sacrifice their health, mental well-being, and welfare for the sake of greatness. Black excellence is an unreachable peak. Nothing is ever good enough. Black excellence is insatiable. There is always one more mountain to climb. Black excellence is not sustainable. and what happens to black people that society does not recognize as excellent. The single parent working multiple jobs to provide for their family, or the frontline workers struggling to make ends meet may not be deemed exceptional in our society, but they are. Living in a world that's designed to keep you confined is black excellence. There needs to be a shift in what we glorify and venerate. Black excellence is not just diverse who accomplish the unimaginable. Black excellence is not just those who achieve accolades and awards. Black excellence is simply existing in a world that so desperately wants to destroy you. That right there in itself, she hit the nail on the coffin. Black excellence. What she say? Black excellence, right? Is simply existing in a world that's so desperately want to destroy you. And the sister hit the nail on the coffin with that last statement. So black excellence is not always about, well, how many awards can I get? How many degrees that I got? I mean, that's great. Those are great things, but being able to exist, being able to live, and being able to get through circumstances in life, being able to go to work every morning and being able to pay your bills on time and take care of your family, being able to be around your children and raise them, being able to spend time with your family, that's black excellence in itself. So black excellence does not always equate to finances or equate to status and degrees. And that's the problem that we tend to focus on, that oh, you have to have a degree in order to represent excellence. Or and then the thing is, we always tell folks that you got to go to college. No, you don't. You don't necessarily have to go to college. Just because somebody don't go to college and they attend to a trade school, or they attend or they work in the workforce, does not make them less of who they are. You got people who in the workforce making decent money, way more money than people who have degrees. Let's talk about it. And then you got folks who done got 4 or 5 degrees and they struggling trying to pay off their student loans. You trying to pay off your student loan, you can't pay your car notes, you can't pay your house note. So what does your degree really mean for you? You got people who got skills, right? And they get hired to work with those who in a higher position. So when we talk about black excellence, we cannot just limit to making money, making more income, but just being able to have the ability to live, your livelihood. That's what makes it excellent. And as the sister mentioned at the bottom of the page, black excellence is simply existing in a world that so desperately wants to destroy you. That's it. Being able to exist in the world and be able to navigate and move around and maneuver in the world. You got somebody who may have did 10 years in prison and they got out of prison and they were able to get a job, get a house, get them a car. That's excellent. That's black excellence right there. If you don't call that black excellence, then I don't know I don't know what to tell you. Being able to navigate through this world is what makes you excellent. If you can navigate, you could be able to wake up every morning and be grateful that you still here and alive and you still breathing and you can still navigate around. That's your black excellence right there. Regardless whether you in a low class, middle class, or upper class, that's your black excellence. Peace to Brother Kent. How you doing, Brother Kent? That's your black excellence. And our ancestors, right, when they fought in civil rights movement, they didn't have millions of dollars. They weren't wealthy people. They were not wealthy people. These people were coming from lower class family. When we look at people like Fannie Lou Hamer, right? She came from a lower class family. She was coming from a family of people that were sharecroppers. She coming from a family of people that were sharecroppers. She was not the most articulating woman, but she made her voice powerful and she was able to navigate and create a pathway for other black folks to vote. So when we look at this, We look at people who didn't really have money. Dr. King came from a middle class family, but not one time you heard Dr. King in one of his speeches talk down on the lower class people. Not one time he spoke down on them. He did not look at them as undesirable people and unworthy of being respected and being protected and being able to receive justice here in this country. He did not do that not one time. He was able to make their struggle a part of his struggle. He put his focus. That was one of the reasons why he did the Poor People Campaign, because he wanted to focus on those who were in poverty in the community. He wasn't putting so much focus on middle class folks or upper class black people. He was focusing on those that was in the low class community, because that's who need the most attention. Dr. King wasn't walking around here looking for accolades or millions of dollars. He was too busy trying to fight for liberation. Same with Malcolm. He was trying to fight for liberation. Malcolm didn't have much because he was getting a lot of support from the Nation of Islam. But once he left the nation, he didn't really have anything. But all he had was a peace of mind. He had the peace of knowledge. He had integrity. That's what he had. If you see somebody giving back to the community, that's Black excellence. If you see somebody feeding somebody that's homeless, that's Black excellence. Somebody who can be able to give you a couple of dollars, even though they might be, struggling as well, that's Black excellence. If you got that big mama on the block that everybody respect, and she able to feed the people in the community, and everybody can come to her and they can talk to her, or she can open up the doors for the people who are unfortunate, right, who may not have a place to go. She don't have a whole lot, right, but she can offer a little something. That's Black excellence right there. Why that can't be Black excellence? Why people like them can't get that type of support? And the people that do most for the community are those, again, that are struggling themselves, those who don't have the resources, those who work in 9-to-5 jobs. Just like the brother out there in New York, right? When he organized a union with the Amazon workers out there, he organized a union so that way those workers can be able to have rights and they can be protected. Now he ended up getting fired some years before he had the union started. He got fired because of the fact that he was outspoken and he addressed the condition that was taking place at those warehouses, right? So they ended up letting him go. However, he did not give up. Although he was without a job, he did not give up. He organized. He had a union. He made sure all the peoples come together, right? And they finally was able to become successful at getting one. So now that's Black excellence right there. If you could organize a union to make sure people's jobs are protected, regardless of what the situation, and make sure they have somebody who can represent them, that's Black excellence. And then there's a program on HBO with these two sisters. It's called Black and Missing. Black and Missing, which was produced by Soleil O'Brien. Soleil O'Brien used to be the commentator, the news anchor for CNN. All right. So she did a lot of shows that was representing the concept about Black people and, Black life here in America. So she produced a show called Black and Missing with two sisters, right? One, I think one is from Maryland. The other one is from South Carolina, I believe. Two of them, but they know each other. They have some type. They related to each other because they're sister-in-laws. But anyways, they have an organization called Black and Missing. These women, they're not millionaires. Okay, they come from a decent family. All right, they work regular jobs. But these women are dedicated and taking their time out to find people who are missing in the community so that way they can reunite and go back home to their loved ones. And then the people that volunteers, those people don't come from upper class community or middle class. They come from lower class area, but they volunteer their time because they feel like it's valuable. And there was one gentleman on there whose sister was missing for so many years. They couldn't even find her body, but they However, based on the evidence, they presumed that she was dead. They couldn't find her body, but they did find some bones in the area over in the highway where her body was dumped off. So, however, that brother was determined to help these women out to find people's loved ones and bring them back home. Now, that's the definition of black excellence in itself. That's revolutionary right there. If you can go find people and you can get the word out, excuse me, you get the word out that there are missing women, missing children, missing men, or missing elderly people, and bring it to the attention of the community, right? And get some type of lead or get some type of location and be able to find that person alive or dead, sadly. You done did your work right there. You done presented black excellence because you was able to keep up with what's going on and be able to let the community know, because a lot of times we don't get those type of amber alerts in our neighborhoods when there's a missing person. We don't get too many amber alerts. So with someone doing a charity like that, that's black excellence. And that's black excellence within itself. So we have to redefine what black excellence is. We have to go beyond the concept of financial status, business status, um, being able to have some type of title. We have to go beyond it. We have to look at people who doing charitable work, people who are regular people that dedicate their lives each and every day to take care of not only their families, but those in their community as well. See, in our community, we believe in the concept of extended family. Why do we believe in that? Because there's a proverb that say it take a village to raise a child. So you're going to always have the extended family. You're going to have people calling each other cousins, auntie, uncles, whatnot, because that's what it is. If that's not black excellence right there, then I don't know what you call it. But anyways, you guys, this is one last article that I want to look into, and then I'm about to go ahead and close it out. Okay. So this article is called Amanda Gorman and the Myth of Black Exceptionalism by Kaylis Fernandez. All right, this comes from the aninjusticemag.com. Okay, and you can find this under Medium. All right, so here it is. It says, yesterday I saw a tweet from Amanda Gorman about being followed by a security guard as she walked home, being told that she looked suspicious. She spoke about the reality of being a black girl. One day you're an icon, the next day you're a threat. It says, I can't say that I was surprised ever since she stepped on into the inauguration dais on January 20th and recited her Syrian poem, The Hill We Climb. She became an international celebrity. It says this young black girl went from relatively obscurity to global sensation in an instant. She's been interviewed by Michelle Obama. She's on the cover of Time magazine. She's been signed to a modeling agency. She read poetry at the Super Bowl. Portrait at the Super Bowl. The world is in love with her, it seems. Now, it goes on to say, yet with all the adulation and near celebrity status, she wasn't spared the indignity of being tailed by a security guard in her own neighborhood. Hearing the story immediately conjured up so many images for me. Trayvon Martin in his neighborhood, Breonna Taylor in her home, Christian Cooper, the Central Park bird watcher. You know them all by now. The situation that went fatally wrong or could have ended terribly when a white person wielding a badge and weapon encounters a black person. I'm glad that nothing worse happened to Miss Gorman, but the sheer injustice of the encounter was egregious enough. These are the daily aggression that non-black people just don't have to face, at least not to the same degree. All right, so this goes down to say Black exceptionalism is a myth. This brings me back to the idea of Black exceptionalism, which I believe is still incredibly rampant. It is the idea that Black people who achieve a certain degree of success across various spectrums are somehow the exception to the rule. The rule being that Black people are somehow less capable, or that as a monolithic group, we are typically beset by struggle and underachievement. All right. And then it goes on to say that Black exceptionalism never occurred to me in a real way until I went to America for university and realized that my academic success, my very presence in the halls of liberal arts, American education was seen as an anomaly. It says the fact of the matter was that not many young Black men went to or finished university. Only 40% completed their degree, the lowest completion rate of all groups. There are various reasons for this: lack of financial resources, limited access to important college admission subjects, managing school and work. All right, so he goes on to say, first, let's stop looking to Black women to save America. Black women are capable of achieving some incredible, astounding things as history continues to show us, but it is not their jobs to make everything all better by their work and their presence. They are fighting for their survival, not to make America feel better about itself and to provide the beacon for the way forward into more unified society. Second, let's start with the Black exceptionalism because it doesn't help. Black people need justice, protection, and the preservation of our humanity. Whether we are poor lotteries or working at McDonald's, hearing about Amanda Gorman's encounter with the security guard should alarm us, not because she's Amanda Gorman, but because she's a human being. Exactly, and that's fast. That's fast. So the brother is right. The gentleman that wrote the article, he's basically saying that it don't mean nothing. It don't regard what your status is. See, people think because they got a status that they can get past any type of situation. No, it don't matter what your status is. You can still be targeted. You can still be discriminated. We saw that with Kanye West. Nobody, yeah, Kanye West was a billionaire, but the moment that he opened his mouth and said something about the Jews, guess what? That what made him a target. We look at Kyrie Irving, right, and we see Kyrie Irving, what happened? That made him a target. No matter how much of a great player he is on the basketball field, I mean the basketball court, he's a target. He's a target because of what he said, right? Because he supported the movie. Now, even though we know that it's pseudo, but he's a target. And now we look at Kevin Hart. Look at Kevin Hart. Because he said black people were the Egyptian were blacks. So now he's a target. They don't care about the fact that he's a comedian, a very well-known comedian at that. But the moment that you say the Egyptian people were black and you was over there in Egypt saying that, he's a target. So the question is, how does Black exceptionalism really help Black people? It really don't. It does not eliminate you from being a target. Now, when we look at the circumstances of these rappers, unfortunately, a lot of them lost their lives due to gun violence. And many of them were mainstream success. They lost their lives to gun violence. And then we see a situation now, another rapper is currently on trial. He's on trial for murder. And there are some people that was a part of his organization that's going to testify against him. There are some people that's a part of his organization that's going to testify against him. So what does that mean? Black exceptionalism don't mean anything. Black excellence does not mean anything when you dealing with a serious situation like that. It's just to remind you that you are still a human being at the end of the day, and most of all, you still black in this country. And he thought because of all the things that he did in his past that it wouldn't catch up to him because he a celebrity and he got money and you remember when Young Thug said it, he's above the law. He thought because he had money that he was above the law. No. No, the law shows you that it don't matter how much money you got, you still gonna get dealt with. You still gonna get dealt with. Nobody really care about you being a rapper or being popular, being international success. Nobody care how much money you got. If you a target, you a target. If you are going in for a crime that has been committed, that's what it's gonna be. But anyways, you all, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I thank you guys for watching. So please be safe. And to next time, may peace and power elevation be to all you. Enjoy your Kwanzaa. For those of you that are celebrating Kwanzaa, again, happy Kwanzaa. Ujama. Ujama means collective economics. So if you can, support those brothers and sisters who are doing their best, those who have great customer service. Most of all, customer service is very important. Make sure they have good qualities, good products that are, worth buying. Okay. That's what you want to look for. Don't just be supporting businesses just because they're black. Make sure they are businesses that's legitimized. Make sure they are business that got good quality of service, right? And good quality of products. Okay. That's what you gotta look for. All right. And also make sure you help those brothers and sisters that are in need, and you see them, they struggling and they trying to do their best, the best they can to get by. If you can help them out. You know what I'm saying? If you can't help them financially, get them some type of resources where they can get access to. You know what I mean? If you can be a support system to somebody who's depressed, who's going through something, what I'm saying? And give them some word of encouragement. You have done your work. You have shown black excellence right then and there that you did. All right, then. So, again, y'all take it easy on yourself. Y'all be safe. And then I'll talk to y'all later. Make sure you like the channel, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. And also check out this sister. I want y'all to check out her YouTube channel. Her name is, let me post it up for y'all. If y'all get a chance to, please check her out because I think she does a great job. She speaks heavy into this topic. The sister name is Alicia Renice the artist. That's her name, Alicia Renice the artist. So make sure y'all check her channel out. Okay, and the title is, let me post it up. The title of the video is Black Excellence is a Scam, Respectability, Politics, Classism, and Hustle Culture in Black Culture. Okay, so make sure y'all check this sister out right here when y'all get a chance to. All right. Anyways, y'all be easy. And thanks everybody in the chat. Shout out to all the people that are coming through. Thank y'all so much. Thank you, Brother Centavo. I appreciate your support. You have always been very supportive, and I really appreciate that. Hopefully one day I get a chance to meet you in person and just give my gratitude to you. So thank you. Thank you for always coming through and making sure that people subscribe to the channel, like the channel, and sharing the channel, etc. All right. I'm out.